Hello and welcome to Quizzy Monday. Hope you can hear me. Hope everything's fine. Just want to say before we get going that Quizzy Monday is 100% unofficial. Everything you hear tonight is the opinions of us as private individuals alone. Just us enjoying our quizzing and commenting on them. So I have two words to say to start the show. John who? Anyway, tonight we have quite a good storming selection of people, actually. Make sure if you want to place a comment, put a comment in the chat and we'll try and pick up on those. But we've got, and we've got one person still trying to get in. We've got Selina Conroy, who is one of the Apres Skiers from last year's Only Connect. And we have the full Durham team from the last series of University Challenge commenting tonight on what they've seen in this evening and particularly on their successors' attempt at trying to win the trophy. So I'm going to bring them all onto the stream. Paddy Duffy is trying to join us. He's having a few tech problems, so we'll bring him on as and when we can. So adding Selina, Thomas, Tom,
hello.
Holly, and Harry to the stream. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
So what did we make? Let's just cut right to the start. What did we make of Clive Myrie? Those of you who watched him.
I thought it was brilliant.
Him.
So Harry says brilliant. Selina, what did you think?
I loved him. I thought he was so warm and welcoming, and he had that, like, you knew he was going to have an authority because you don't get to be a BBC News presenter without it. But he brought such warmth to it as well. It was great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thomas.
I honestly barely got to catch the end of it.
It's fine. We appreciate honesty,
focusing on the University Challenge.
No worries. Tom Banbury.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent. He followed in the tradition of John of being the sort of very authoritative but very warm and friendly presence. It's like it was odd getting used to a sort of different diction, a different way of enunciating the questions. And we got to hear his first "I've started, so I'll finish." So that was quite fun. But yeah, I was very impressed. I thought it went very well.
Indeed. And Holly, how about you?
I didn't get to watch it live because I was making dinner. But I have seen some clips and he was really, really good. Like obviously because he's a presenter, but he's got such a good speaking voice. And it was very much like he holds himself with such gravitas. And I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of very, very positive comments. I had I screen grabbed a bunch on my phone, so if I can find them. So we had Nina saying, very much enjoying Clive Myrie as a new host of Mastermind. He was a fantastic choice for the position. Wendy Lingard, Clive Myrie has a lovely manner hosting Mastermind and you is the perfect replacement. Susan Seddon, Clive Myrie already showing why he's the perfect choice representing Mastermind. I think I might tune into the show more regularly from now on. Somebody said chickpeas. I think that was in respect to one of the questions. Andrew Jazzy, as expected, an understated but impressive debut from Clive Myrie. Clive Myrie is exactly right as the new host, gravitas and twinkle. And Jamie Fryer, who was on our show last week, said, okay, I've noticed a problem with Clive Myrie. His voice is so easy to listen to. A couple of times I forgot to listen to the question. Strong debut, says Jamie. Jamie was on, not only on our show last week, he was on Only Connect last series, one of the Barons. So generally, a really, really strong response to him. I'm going to try and add Paddy to the stream. I don't think we've got Paddy's face. But
that's just as well, Gareth, let's be honest.
And here we have the voice of God, or Paddy, as he is known to other people. Paddy, you've been on Only Connect. You're a panelist on Round Britain Quiz. You also run a radio show on Spotify which blends music and trivia. Can you tell people what that's called?
Sure, yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for the plug, Gareth. Yeah, it's called Does That Sound Right? It's exclusive to Spotify because I recorded on their Anchor facility. And it's a great way, to sort of merge my dual loves of music and quiz questions. And so basically it's like a regular show, like a regular music show. But every question, or every track at the end of it has a connected quiz question. Sometimes it's very directly connected to the music. Sometimes it's sort of, it launches off. Sometimes I have to have achingly bad puns to make the connections, but you know, I get there anyway. And and people are sort of welcome to send in requests and anything else that they may want. So yeah, it's I like to think of it as if the Old Grey Whistle test actually had a test. That's sort of the way that I like to think about it.
Well, that's a reference for the kids there.
Yeah.
But what did you make of Clive Myrie's debut?
Well, you know, it's funny, isn't it? When you go off for the summer holidays and you sort of wonder if you're ever going to be able to, you know, get back into the swing of it ever again. And then lo and behold, 2 minutes in, it's like you never left. And I sort of feel like Clive Myrie has been doing this for about 20 years, actually. I thought he was very good. I thought he was very smooth. I agreed with your comment there that said that his voice was very easy to listen to. I especially liked at the end when he went, "Morning becomes Electra." That was he knew he was set at home and dry, I think, at that point, and he was enjoying himself. I think what was notable for me was that he said within about, I would say maybe 10 words or so of him starting, he said that I have the privilege to host this show. So I think that it was something that was indicative of a man, I think, who's very humble, who knows that the show is the star, and he is sort of the conduit. He is the vessel through which, sort of things flow. And he was very good at maintaining that flow. It came very naturally to him. And now I don't know if that was the first show recorded, or if simply the first show gone out. It doesn't they don't necessarily put the shows out in the order that they record them. But if it was, then that's an incredibly assured start. I thought it was really good, and I thought a really good sort of way back to basics as well. The run of specialist subjects I thought were, pitch perfect Mastermind, sort of the highbrow and the lowbrow. I think the questions are appreciably shorter. I mean, not like dramatically shorter. It's not a shock to the senses or anything, but yeah, you do feel like more information is being imparted as we go. I thought it was, a very, very smooth performance. And like I say, it's like he's been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah, we've got some comments in the chat. Claire Barrow popped that up. Claire was a finalist of Mastermind last season. Clive was super. He seemed to actually care about the contestants, which was one of the things. We did a video when it was announced that there would be a new presenter, and we said, what do we want? Somebody who realizes that the game is about the contestants, not about the presenter. I think that really came across. I think he did that really well. Catherine Burkett, Clive will be a credit to the show. Clear diction, caring, needs a slightly higher seat though. Great debut. Gerard is saying he started and hopefully years from finishing. Jamie, who I quoted earlier, the fuffer, Myrie smashed it. Very clear, very steady, very listenable, genuine warmth. And contestant got one when the contestant got one wrong. Loved the yes on the iffy answers. Harry, another finalist from the grand final. Agree with Claire. Great stuff. From Clive, from Harry, sorry. Chestnut bloke. Clive had a great first show, according to Twitter. Invented a new catchphrase. Yes. And Jamie never wanted to blow his own trumpet. That was a really good final tweet you read out there, Gareth. Team follow back. So yeah, I mean, my view, diction clearly, just so easy to understand him, and all of you University Challenge folk and Selina, when you're in studio, with all the pressure that you're under, the one thing you don't need is somebody who stumbles over their words or isn't really clear.
You don't want the host to do it. They can leave that to us.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, it was something that I really thought was fantastic because he had a lot of very difficult words to pronounce, and I don't know how Mastermind is filmed, but just having that diction and the ability to pronounce things correctly just helps so much. And he was absolutely fantastic at that, so he really got the basics right as well as, being very friendly too.
The two heavy foreign word heavy opening subjects with Swiss geography and the Romanovs.
Yeah.
Which was nice to see, actually.
Yeah. I mean, Selina, I think Victoria's not that bad when it comes to diction. She's got quite precise diction. But in studio, you can't always necessarily hear everything very well, can you?
No, so we were filming last year with all the COVID protocols and everything. So we had the plexiglass and the earpieces, which I don't know whether it helps because I've not done it in any other way, but it did add a sort of an extra element where if you ever saw anyone sitting there looking slightly more intense than usual, it was because we were listening really hard to check we weren't missing anything.
We had that.
Yeah, of course you guys would as well. And
our first episode was sort of pre-COVID, so we didn't have the screens, we didn't have the earpieces. But then from our second episode onwards, so from the first round matches didn't have earpieces, and then everything after that did have earpieces.
So what did you see that there was a difference, or did you hear there was a difference? I suppose.
Yes, I made some quite awful mistakes in mishearing people. I think the
Darrow March. Never lived
absolutely.
that down.
I think the nominate function was made for earpieces because a lot of especially with things like foreign words, like things where you need to hear really specifically. I mean, it's not like massively feedbacky, but like to double check, I think it's easier to do that in person than on a earpiece.
Yeah, and hearing is so critical, particularly when you've got somebody to your left and two people to your right, and perhaps people speaking at the same time. Having that clarity is tricky. Selina, you were captain as well, weren't you?
I was, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, mainly to stop David and Jess from getting divorced through the process. So, yeah, I was there as mediator. But yeah, it was, and that adds obviously an extra responsibility as well. Because it's kind of like, oh God, if I don't hear it and I'm the captain, then but yeah, it was a fun time.
Yeah. Well, we'll get onto that in a second. Catherine Burkett saying clear diction in the presenter is an important asset I look for. I have auditory processing disorder. The clearer, more measured the diction and enunciation, the better. So yeah, that was you never know what was recorded. Any pickups were recorded afterwards because that always happens. As anyone who's filmed one of our quizzes will know. But nonetheless. Diction was brilliant. There was a comment here from Claire. One of the criticisms previously had been about the length of questions, and specialist subject ones weren't appreciably shorter. I think we didn't necessarily have the quickest answerers tonight on specialist subjects, and not necessarily, let's say, subjects with a lot of tricky words that don't necessarily lend themselves to snappy diction. But general knowledge, I was counting up, and they were getting 17, 18 questions, which I think is a fair crack of the whip when it comes to that. I mean, how did you feel? Are any of you? I mean, have any of you been regular Mastermind viewers, or was this kind of a touching back in on it? Yeah. So
a touch back,
I think.
Yeah. So Holly, did you feel did you sense a change?
So I unfortunately didn't get to watch it live, but I have seen some clips. Not massively at first watch, but I feel like possibly if I watched it again like properly, I might pick up on something.
Yeah, I felt it's just Mastermind as a format it does suffer from these drawbacks, and I think it's the problem more so with the format than the presenter having to wait to the end of the question in order to answer. But they were quite snappy this time, which was really nice. As you said, so hopefully that continues, and hopefully it gets faster and faster as it goes on.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed was there were very few questions where, in the past, we'd had the question's been asked and then you get another sentence. There were very, very few like that, which again speeds up the process and experience. So that was good. So yeah, we've got lots to talk about. So we'll probably wind up Mastermind unless anybody's got anything else to say. But I just think it was a really, really strong debut by Clive Myrie. Fantastic performance. It felt like the same show that it's always been, but just better, fresher,
cleaner.
Yeah, that's a good word.
I love the humour moment at the end as well.
Oh,
That was really nice.
That was, I was a little bit.
Very sweet.
It was a bit emotional, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was wonderful because you'll all know, and particularly if you've been on Mastermind, but even your shows, you invest so much of yourselves into it, and you work hard, and there is a lot of tension, and when it comes off, there is that emotion. You could see it. You don't know whether he's going to go on and win the series. I mean, I haven't filmed the final yet, so we don't know. But it's still getting to semi-finals. Massive achievement, personal for him, clearly big, and it was just a wonderful moment.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? I mean, University Challenge became my personality for like a year and a half. Well,
it's still my personality trait now. It's my only personality trait.
Like you do, and like we're still here talking about it even now. It's such a huge part of people's lives.
It's
going
fantastic.
on these quiz shows that it's really important.
And in particular, Mastermind is very much a sort of personal vindication of your quizzing ability, whereas sort of University Challenge is often
That's a good point. Yeah.
a very high level of, I like to say, of team quizzing. Mastermind, the attraction of Mastermind, I think, is partly that you can go on and prove yourself as an individual.
Yeah.
I'm always in awe. Yeah, I'm always in awe because I can barely remember what day it is, never mind memorising specialist subjects.
Some of the specialist subjects are so niche. It's just incredible, like how it's like even within the specialist subject, it's breadth and depth. Like I guess where general knowledge is very much breadth. And also Mastermind is a real test because it's your specialist subject, something you're allegedly going to be good at, plus general knowledge, and you never know what's going to come up.
Pretty much. Having done University Challenge, and of course played it quite a bit at home, I'm always in awe of the entire basically the skill taken to choose a specialist subject for Mastermind, something that you know well enough that you can get everything, but is also sufficiently limited scope that you can get everything.
Yeah, that really is the art of choosing the subject. You can nail it in the time available. Where it's a defined subject. There is an art to that, and we've seen some very overly broad subjects at times, which people then struggle on because you don't know if you've covered everything. We just Gerard has said someone on Twitter was disappointed we didn't get to see the regeneration seeds.
I was literally going to compare it to Doctor Who. I remember the first Doctor Who regeneration I saw was Christopher Eccleston to David Tennant. And David Tennant later went on to become my favorite Doctor Who ever. But at the time, I was like, "Oh, that's so weird and wrong." But I feel like the John Humphreys to Clive Myrie transition was way smoother than that. Like someone said, it feels like he's been doing it for 20 years. It does. It felt quite normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert Crawley.
Hi, Robert Crawley.
Good.
Man of taste. Man of taste, Robert Crawley there.
Cool. So, Mastermind hit. What I'll quickly do is, I think we've lost Paddy. It says device is not connected. So, poor Paddy. I will just quickly do some very quick updates on all things quiz. So, Valerie will add that. Just because we had a few things going on. So, we've been voting for Quizzer of the Week and Quiz Team of the Week, and the winner of Quizzer of the Week is Michael Bartel, who is, I think he's at Birmingham University at the moment, on a PhD. So congratulations to Michael. That's for his Quiz League of London exploits. Elsa Watson for her Connections Online Quiz League exploits, and Alan Gibbs for winning Quiz in the North. Quiz Team of the Week is Paul Sinhart and Oliver Levy for winning the pairs competition at Quiz in the North. Sausage McGuffin for their exploits in Online Quiz League USA. And Team Extreme Lowbrow for their performance in Quiz in the North. So well done to all of those. We've been on Sunday, we released our answer in needle question, London. We've had so many responses, we've had to split the vote into two. So we've got around 50 questions that people have submitted. So those are the addresses, tinyurl.com/WITQ London and WITQ London 2. Go in, pick the best questions, and then we'll put a shortlist to the vote and announce the winner on Quiz Week on Friday. And a reminder that, we started snipping out little snippets from Quizzy Monday, and last week we had the wrong answer that stuck from Jamie, gave him a nickname he didn't want, and also a discussion on Only Connect Missing Val's buzzer tactics. So look out for those, and make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss any videos like that we put out. Click the button down below. It's only, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And that's it. So we will now get back to the chat. And I'll just check if Paddy's back with us. Paddy. Paddy, you are back with us, at least in voice, if not in body.
Yes, sadly, I am like some sort of foreign correspondent from 1970s television, I'm afraid.
It's like Eurovision from the 80s. Hello, Belgrade.
Exactly, yes. These are the results as well, good, Julie. I also am a David Tennant fan for what it's worth. Thanks for sharing.
So, Only Connect. Ramblers versus Wall Gatherers. Selina, what did you make of that match?
I thought it was really, it was really good. I was a bit sort of like, low scoring first round. I was like, oh, okay, how's this going to go? Wall Gatherers took their time to warm up a little bit, I felt, but turned it into a really, really close contest, obviously going into Missing Vows, where I think it was Steve from the Ramblers just sort of went away with it. Though I did notice he did tweet about the 5 lines where it was musical Steve that he saw Muscle Steve, and I was like, I totally would have seen that.
Muscle Steve.
The difference being that I would have buzzed in and said Muscle Steve. Would I have got it? Who knows? But I thought they were great. I thought it was a really 2 really, really lovely teams. Like all of the teams so far in this series have been excellent and just really lovely. I thought it was close. They did really well on the walls. I'm always still a little bit insanely jealous of anyone who gets all of the groups. But I thought it was good. Wall Gatherers brought it back to be a close one, which was nice.
Talking of jealousy, I was going to ask both of you, because, or all of you, how does it feel watching everybody, other people playing your game? Durham, in your case, another team playing as Durham, and Selina watching others. Is there that pang of jealousy, or is there, oh, thank God it's not me, that was too much of an ordeal?
I think it's a bit of both. It's nice to be back on the sofa where it's a lot easier than sitting there with lights and cameras on you and everything. And oh God, I've got to push a button. But at the same time as well, it's really nice knowing the journey that they've gone through and knowing everyone who's involved, sort of behind the scenes as well. That makes it just makes it a more enriched experience, I think. So yeah, it's a bit mixed, but also, oh my God, I wish I could do it again.
Yeah, indeed. Holly, how about you watching somebody else captain Durham? I mean, were you involved in the selection of the next team or anything like that?
Not the selection, but we spoke to them a lot and we sort of quizzed with them. And it was honestly, Jack, Charlie, Emily, and Azar, you could not find a nicer team. They are such lovely, lovely people. And we're all really proud of them. I feel like this is motherhood. I feel like a soccer mom. But yeah, no, I get quite aggressive about University Challenge, and I'm sort of shouting out at the TV. And my mum walked past and said, "It's easier when you're on the sofa, isn't it?" And that's so true, because especially so many of the mistakes we make, and we watch back and we say that's so easy. It's so scary to be sat there. And especially with something like Only Connect or University Challenge or Mastermind, like they're British institutions now, and you're on it and you're thinking, like it's really frightening. But yeah, no, it does. I think every time I watch stuff, I'd probably speak for most of us when I say this, that it just reminds us like how much fun it is. Especially on Only Connect tonight, they just looked like they were having such a good time, and like the boys will vouch for this. I put in our group chat, can we go on Only Connect? Like, do it. This looks like such a good time. But there's 4 of us. I mean,
and that's your problem, isn't it? Yeah,
that's the problem.
That's what.
You're going to be a ringer.
You guys go on it. I'll like clap at the side.
Oh no, we couldn't do it without you.
Oh, okay.
That's what is not my strong suit.
Is it 2 University Challenge alumni on?
There were 4.
Yes.
4 on Only
Steve
Connects.
Barnes. Steve Barnes.
Yes.
At least 4.
And
Yeah,
Jill.
Steve Barnes. I did say to Steve Barnes, I thought it was Muscle Steve. And he said that he saw it because his name's Steve. He said he saw it and thought, that says Steve. And like, if he'd buzzed in with Muscle Steve, incredible.
Yeah. I just love the vibe change in between Mastermind, then Only Connect, then University Challenge. Like Only Connect's just like this very lovely, like really wholesome show in the middle of these 2 quite serious ones. So it's really nice.
Good comment.
No, I don't mean it like that. I mean like Only Connect's like friendly and they're all having a good time. Well, only like on University Challenge, everyone's terrified and scared.
It's funny you were saying actually, Holly, about talking to the Durham team. So I used to host a pub quiz in Leicester, and we had one of the University of Leicester teams use my quiz to practice for when they were on. And they sent the next year's team in. They went, if you can cope with Selina, you can cope with Paxman, you'll be fine. I think possibly because by the end of the quiz, I'd have had maybe some wine or some beer, so I wouldn't necessarily make sense. And they, unfortunately for them, they were slightly terrified. And they did not do well with Paxman.
Oh, no.
So maybe it's the thing. But yeah, it was quite nice that they kind of brought them in and were like, just do the quiz and everything. So it is that kind of ushering in the next generation, as it were.
That wasn't the Leicester team that we played, was it?
So carry on, Tom.
So I was going to say that wasn't the Leicester team that we played in our first match, was it?
Our first round was against Leicester.
No. This was a few years ago.
Oh, good. We're absolved.
Yeah, don't worry.
Hi, Leicester.
There was a team from Leicester when I worked on the show, and they had an incredible gambit for getting in the other team's heads and also sort of getting into the spirit of it. I brought them to their dressing rooms, and they go, Paddy, can we wear shorts? And I'd not been asked that question before, and I had to sort of think for a minute to see was there any godly reason why they couldn't. And I go, no, you can wear shorts. That's absolutely fine. And so it was interesting. Actually, it was kind of like it was sort of like the 4 humors. It's like they showed their personality through their shorts. Like one of them was wearing corduroy shorts. One of them was wearing football 5-a-side shorts. They started when they got to the green room. They started doing lunges in them, and that just to sort of lower the tension and to sort of get into it. And then when they got to the studio, Paxman said to them, he sort of looked them up and down as he does the sort of with his kind of incredulity. And he goes, I used to do the same thing during hot days on Newsnight. I'd be wearing suit and tie from from the waist up, but below hand I'd be wearing shorts and runners as well. So so they got off to a flying start when they were on it. They were some excellent teams from Leicester over the years.
It was interesting, I think, what Harry said. Just flipping back to kind of the tone of the different shows, and it's been said in the comments as well. I thought there was a lot more joking in Only Connect tonight. Quite a lot of. I don't want to use the word banter, but I can't think of another better word. But Victoria going, but it's a banana, and then one of the chaps, I think it was the captain, going, it's got a lot of appeal, and I was just thinking, bad puns, love it. It's like, it takes a certain kind of bravado to start kind of improvising, quips whilst you're recording a show.
Planning on national television is brave.
I think as well, like when you're filming Only Connect, in a way, once you get into it, you kind of forget that you are filming. It is a little bit sort of like, we're all just having a really lovely time, and it's all so much fun. And then you're like, actually, we're recording something.
It's helped by the fact that it's the least likely television studio on the planet.
Yes.
You go to this industrial estate. Sort of somewhere in the back of beyond Cardiff, and you go in and it kind of looks like a working men's club or something inside. and then you just sort of walk through, and it's sort of like, tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be on Only Connect all of a sudden. It's sort of black room with, you know, and it's this huge room with this sort of like a tiny piece of it apportioned to the seats and to the host desk. It's so I think that plays a big part of it as well. And I think, in fairness, Jenny and the team are tremendous in terms of keeping sort of the sport. I mean, you know full well that any sort of banana related puns that ended in the studio started backstage, because it's just such a lovely convivial atmosphere.
Yeah, it really is. But you do forget, and there is that competitive element to it, which kind of becomes horridly apparent when you get onto the wall, and all the fun and games are over at that point, and it's like, oh god, we've got this beast to try and play. But I say I did love the. Why is that the answer? Steve told me to say it. I thought that was just highlight of the night. Did you ever feel like doing that, Holly, when somebody kind of like is whispering in your ear? I know, because you get to just nominate, don't you? You just get
I feel like that gets rid of a lot of the shame. Selina, can I ask a question about Only Connect? Do you get to hang out with Victoria, and is she as lovely as she seems?
She is absolutely delightful.
I love her.
She's lovely. So obviously, because of all COVID and everything, we didn't get to hang out as much as I think previous series have done. But the time that you spend with her is time well spent. She is absolutely lovely, and it's again, she does a lot to really help sort of put you at ease a little bit. I mean, the first one that we filmed was like the hottest day of the year, and I was like, we suddenly realised where we were, and it was like, oh my god! So it's like a puddle of sweat on the little desk in front of me, because it was just, oh god. And then she comes out, and it's just like you've known her for ages, and you're chatting down the pub. So it's a real. And as Paddy said, like the whole team, Jenny and Hal, the studio manager, all do such a great job of just really putting you at ease while they're sort of like getting you around and fiddling with your mics and everything, and shining you and all of that. So
I think it's always a good metric. It's only for the fact that you suspect it only for the fact that they have 4 shows to record that day. You do get the impression that Victoria would go on the sesh with you at the end of, like, if you were lucky enough to get on the end of the run, you could maybe convince her to go out on the sesh. And I think that's quite a good metric. Like I absolutely loved my time with Victoria, and she was like incredibly generous. Like the first time we got on, we were absolutely mullered, and it was one of the few times in which there wasn't a repechage tournament. So it was one match and good luck. But we were brought back then for a Christmas special, for which I wore a stupid European jumper, as like had all the flags sewn into it. And I sort of thought, like, well, I'm probably going to be the most like ludicrously dressed as we come in. But no, in comes Victoria wearing traditional Welsh costume. She's sort of like that, sort of black and white kind of, sort of shawl type thing with this big Welsh hat. She looks sort of like Abraham Lincoln or something like that. And we had a great performance, or we had a great show. And she gave me the hat afterwards. So there's a picture of me in the green room afterwards with a glass of red wine, and I'm wearing a jumper that actually I forgot to say, Paxman gave me that jumper. It was made for him, and he gave it to me because he didn't want it. And so I was wearing Paxman's jumper and Victoria's hat, sort of mid conversation about something. It was a very special experience. But she also gave us this lovely signed photograph. And she says, hail the returning quizzers on it, so she was just so absolutely lovely. And it's always that fear, isn't it, when you go on a show, a much beloved show like Only Connect, and you think, oh, maybe are they terrible in real life? But absolutely not. She was so much lovelier than I could have hoped for.
Which is, very much my experience, but I am still trying to recover from the sound of those names being dropped, Paddy.
Sorry, it's an occupational hazard.
No. We love the raconteur side. Side, Paddy. Don't ever change. So highlights then. What were our favourite questions on Only Connect tonight? If anybody did have a favourite.
I did enjoy the DNA one because I'd have got that on the 5.
Yeah, I was going to say that one.
That was the one. And actually, the Lands of Music one,
Yes.
a music question that I'd actually have got. And maybe it's because I was at home, but that was a good one as well. I thought the walls were really good on this episode as well. There's some good red herrings in them. Which was
Yeah, there was some. I think in the second wall, what was the one that was Hal? I think, I suppose.
The AIs. So
Yeah.
I was thinking, Jarvis and
Hal, Holly,
Holly,
and the river one. There was Moon River as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That animal sounds connection in the wall. I mean, it's a simple, easy one, but I loved it. Nay,
That's good.
Coon, Bar, and Moo.
It is, and they're the kind of ones where you're looking at it and you're looking for something clever, and it's not. It's just obvious, and you're like, oh yeah.
I just feel like a bit of some of the challenge of Only Connect as well, though, isn't it? Because the like obviousness of answers can be anything from the most obvious thing ever to the most obscure. And sometimes you've got to take a step back, but you don't really have the time. And you've got these, lights shining in your face. It must be so difficult.
I mean, for quizzers like yourselves who've, you cut your teeth on, starters, pyramidal starters, and bonus questions, and it's kind of straight up general knowledge. Although University Challenge has some kind of puzzly elements in it nowadays. When you're playing something like Only Connect, are you kind of switching into a different mode, or do you just kind of, does it feel sort of natural playing along with it for you?
I feel very stupid. Because it feels like a completely different way of thinking and approaching quizzing. So it feels like something that I would need to learn how to do before I just sort of have a go at the moment. I don't think about how I don't practice it. I think it was something that must require practice or something like that.
Yeah,
honestly, I find it really hard.
I think it's
the thing about quizzing.
That's
The thing about quizzing. It's an entire range of sports. Selina, you brought up pub quizzes and the University Challenge team not doing very well in those. Secret, I am awful at pub quizzes as well. It's just each quiz is a very different range of skills.
We're all bad at pub quizzes. We finished third in the other day.
don't.
And as well with pub quizzes, I don't know, and because I'm not necessarily a traditional quizzer. I hosted them, and that was sort of the extent of my involvement. But I would have teams that would sort of disperse to pubs across the county to do quizzes on different nights.
People take it so seriously.
For mine, they did. When I started hosting this particular one, they were so serious, and they'd come and argue with me over like half a point, and I'd be like, "It's Thursday night. I've had a couple of beers. I don't really care." And eventually they started lightening up a bit. But then I also learned to understand just how serious it was to them. And, finding out that they would all just go off to different quizzes, because each quiz would have like a slightly different format and a different theme or sort of ways of doing so. It was like a whole new world of things. And as you said, Thomas, like it is sort of like there is such a range of different skill sets involved in trying to work things out. Like I'm always amazed by University Challenge, because I'm just like, I sit there and I'm like, I wait for popular music. Mainly because I love how Pac-Man says popular music, like it's a disdainful thing, and musical, anything that's kind of in my wheelhouse, I'm sort of like I'm waiting for, and then it's like that anything like vaguely sciencey or anything, I'm just sitting there going, Yeah, yeah. And I'm always so amazed by like all these fast, correct answers that come out. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, there was one brilliant moment tonight in University Challenge where I think it was the captain of Trinity said, "Sorry, I tuned out for that question."
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
You do though, you do, because it's 25 minutes of really intense concentration. You've got to relax your brain at some point, and sometimes it just so happens to be unluckily when he's reading out a question. We've all done it.
That's something that really, like, when we first started practicing. So obviously, when we knew the Durham team before us, and like we had sort of an amount of practice, and in like the exams that they made us sit before, like as part of to make the team and then to make television. One of the things that got me was it's not like a pub quiz or like quizzing with your family. If you can't go, oh, what was that? And like for the maths, I got one of the first questions I asked about University Challenges, do you get a pen and paper behind the desk? I don't know if you guys remember, there was a question on one of our series about like calculating the half-life of something.
Oh, yeah.
And my first thought was, where's the pen? And there is no pen. And it's quite traumatic. Because like in real life, you just do that with a pen and paper. But
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be looking at you like a goldfish.
Just guess a number. 7. Like.
But I mean, there is one thing that's common to the pub quiz and Only Connect and University Challenge, and that is the trying to come up with a guess that sounds plausible, even when you don't really know the answer. And again, back on OC tonight was in Picture Round, where the Ramblers said, say something that ends in unk.
Yes.
Because they kind of thought that it might be Thelonious Monk or something, I don't know, but it was just like, but actually that's not a bad tactic if you've got no idea and one thing that you think might be right. And I'm sure that goes for University Challenge as well. It's like, if you only know one kind of Bolivian sociologist, throw it out,
Or like the start with the same letter ones, where like these following answers will all start with the same 3 letters. You can have a good guess, can't you? Like,
yeah,
like just hedging your bets, like
and that's the slightly more forgiving element, isn't it, of University Challenge over Only Connect, is that you don't have to give a reason why you've said this bizarre thing on national television. It only makes sense to you.
You just have to give that reason to your friends when you get home.
Yeah.
And you're like,
which is fine, because that's not on TV.
Because friends like you.
I think Gareth, that question that you said there about, I think that's a very good. It's sort of emblematic about how. Sorry, I'm calling from the heavens again. I thought that question was a very good indicator of what Only Connect is and how it's different to other quizzes. So it's like, first of all, you need to know that it's Charlie Parker. You then also need to know that his nickname is Bird. You then also sort of have to be able to sort of kick your brain out of gear enough to sort of not see that it's what's the significance of 2, 4, 5, 7. It's a hand of cards. So it's that idea like you need to go in so deep and then bring yourself right back out. So you're kind of on your brain needs to be sort of on a bungee cord. And it's having all that sort of firing at the same time and doing it all to time, and then sort of spotting then as well that you need to focus on the 2 the third time, and then trying to it's a proverb. So like the amount of things that you're pulling together and the sort of things that you then have to see it. And that's one of the big things with stuff like Only Connect or indeed RBQ, is that idea of like, if it doesn't come to you, then you could spend the best part of the week looking at it and it won't, it hardens like concrete. So you have to be so quick. And so I thought that, I think it's a perfect, if you're going to explain Only Connect to an alien, like myself, coming in from on high as a voice, I think that's the sort of question that you would show them.
Yeah, but it's that sort of lateral thinking element, that sort of, what could it be? And I think, again, that's where the teamwork comes in. And Harry, you were talking about, having to practice for OC. You can practice walls. You can practice, because there's a website called Puzzgrid where they have loads of walls.
It's really good.
You can practice looking for the anagrams, looking for the word that comes before or the word that comes after, or the word that's in there, or the general knowledge connections. There are techniques. It's remembering the damn options whilst you're in the game. How did we not look for an anagram? It's that sort of thing, because that's one of the things to look for.
Do you know what? Yeah, I'm always going to be haunted by the CBeebies bedtime stories that we got wrong, and I remembered it just as like it was going over to. I think it was when we were playing the whodunits, and it was just like, God. It was like I knew it. And it was like, but you have such little time to like rack your brain for all of the things.
Yeah.
It is just kind of like,
okay. We ought to move on to University Challenge, and Durham, I am sorry that that your successors appear to have. I mean, I don't think they'll have got through, not with 90 points.
Yeah, they can reveal that they haven't. I'm not sure if they can reveal. Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
No, I think they've already been mathematically relegated.
Yeah,
by the
I think
shows that have already come.
But they still did really well, and they should be really proud of themselves. I think they did really well.
No, we are really proud of it.
I mean, I was watching, obviously watching, I was taking notes, and we've spoken before with Michael Kohn, who was Imperial's captain last year, that you could have two very, very evenly matched teams in terms of their overall knowledge. But if one is a fraction of a second quicker consistently on the buzzer, they're the ones who end up winning rather than the other. It doesn't mean that they're 100 points better in terms of their knowledge. It just means that they got the buzzes that counted. And when Durham did get in tonight, I thought they showed some really good knowledge. It's just they're
didn't get bunch of people. They're a very clever bunch of people.
They are such clever people.
Yeah, and there was some excellent working out as well.
And like even when they were wrong, they were close. Sometimes, like on sort of getting the right era for something.
We were talking about this earlier as well, and I think Thomas, you were talking about this as well. But like the questions were actually like a lot of them were quite, especially in the first round, they're quite like for University Challenge quite easy, and so it's all about the buzzer.
It was
because
speed,
like for example that picture question, like Tripoli to Cape Town. I mean, that's just pure buzzer. I mean. Like if you're on University Challenge, you should know that.
But both of the picture ones were, I think.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, the music question as well. I'd say.
Yes, that was quick.
If you know your opera, that's just like.
I know nothing about opera, and I knew that one. So
they were just lightning fast. They were so quick.
Yeah. It was speed.
Like it was.
I think that's one of the things I think
such a good time.
We should have practiced. Oh my gosh, Kim, so happy to be there. Like I love how smiley he was. Like there's nothing worse than a real like. Obnoxious looking quiz contestant, but like he is genuinely happy to be there and
living his best life.
He's living his best life, Thomas. You're absolutely right.
Also, commendably good Scottish geography knowledge compared to the people that actually are from Britain. I was kind of amazed.
It's fantastic. Like the speed on they were so good. Like a lot of them, as Harry was saying, a lot of them were sort of stock quiz facts. So like the acronym for the full name of North Korea, like that's if you know it, you know it.
Yeah, and Charlie did.
The moon of Jupiter, number 1, Io. That's a stock quiz fact.
That was very nice.
But again,
combining the two.
Hetherington from Durham, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That on North Korea, he beat Kim, who
so fast.
was born in South Korea. You know, it was just that. Lightning reactions.
Is there a joke in there about a career change or a career choice? Yes. Just wondering if there could be one.
Well, you'll fit in well on Only Connect, Holly. With
I'm here for a laugh. So.
It is certainly something about University Challenge. Is sort of when you do it, when you're in the mix of it, is like it really does go like a flash when you're in studio. And I did feel for Durham because I think every now and then you get a team. That won't make the repechage, but if the match was either started 10 minutes later or finished 10 minutes after the gong, they would have been in that. I mean, like they really got ahead. Yeah, and they got a bit of a head of, they got a bit of momentum, and it was just a little bit too late. And I always feel really sorry for teams like that because it does go in like an absolute flash, and sometimes it's just a couple of, like you were saying, it was so lightning fast that all you need really is a couple of hesitations, and that's the ball game. And it does go sort of, any studio show goes just lightning fast. And so it is kind of, it can be hard to compute when the gong goes off and go, oh my God, is that it?
Yeah.
I was just getting into the swing of it. So it's I did feel for Durham. I sort of feel like every year you get a team, and it's if only, or if we kind of had a match of the day situation and they could play a couple of other teams, I suspect they would have they'd be pushing for things later on down the track.
I think COVID, I'm not sure, obviously COVID affected all teams, but I think COVID was definitely a disadvantage because obviously, I mean, COVID was around when we were the team on University Challenge. But like beforehand, we got to quiz a lot in person as well as over Zoom. Whereas I think like these, I'm sure they'll correct me if I'm wrong on this, but these are some of when they were actually in the same room together or in the studio, they were some of the first times that they were allowed to be in the studio together. And I mean, like, especially I don't know about other universities, I think it will be similar, but Durham there was an Easter term where they basically said, don't come back. And we sort of disbanded for a while. And obviously Isaiah lives in America and they're scattered all over the country. And it's not even a case of they can go sit in a park somewhere. I mean, I think there is an amount of like chemistry to team quizzing. Like there's like building a team and like knowing how to sort of riff off of each other.
Yeah, and not to be all sort of sour grapes about it, but there is a certain benefit for the Oxbridge colleges, because Durham has colleges, but we don't compete in colleges.
Yes.
In the context of COVID, at least a lot of them are going to be living together in the same halls. And there was some universities obviously took breaks longer than others, and so Durham not lacked chemistry because there are lovely people and they were lovely on Zoom. But in the sort of the personal dynamic was really lost in a way that it wouldn't have been for other teams.
Yeah, I imagine if you're doing a lot of quizzing, and obviously there's UK Quiz Bowl, and there's quite a lot now over Zoom that perhaps maybe more opportunities than there were before. I don't know, but when you're captain, you want to immediately know who's the person who's going to be. To turn to, who's going to be the one most likely to be giving you the answer, or if two people are giving you the answer, weighing up, which one is most likely to be right. And you get that through playing with each other. You can't get that from a psychometric test or a written quiz or something. Who is likely to pick, to pluck the answer under pressure. And that's all. You only get that from playing under pressure, don't you?
Yeah. And again, I think the selection process this year was very different to the selection process in our year because of COVID. I think that did make a difference because we had a round robin quiz between all the colleges within Durham to select the team, and they didn't have that. They just had a written quiz, and I think that made
it was online as well.
It was an online quiz,
a Google form.
Yeah, and so
difficult to organise.
In our 3-round selection process where we had live buzzer practice versus their test where they just picked the 4 strongest people on paper makes a big difference. I think like, as I said, they were growing into the buzzer at the end, but they hadn't had the buzzer practice that we'd had playing everyone else at Durham.
And there was a time when we used to be able to go and sit in a room and press buzzers. And know how that would work. And
because it is a physical thing, and it's a very different thing from tapping your phone or something like that.
And the buzzer is scary. Like buzzer quizzing, you can know everything, but there is something so when you first buzzer quiz, it is really strange. And I think that was what happened in our first 2 matches. So our match against Leicester and our match against Edinburgh. In both of them. So I think Leicester, we were 50 points down before we came back and won. In Edinburgh, we were 100 points down before we came back. And because it was like a few of the questions I knew the answer to, but I was so scared to press the buzzer. And at some point, you just have to go, right, screw it. I'm going to press the buzzer. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. And like, there is an amount of recklessness. And I think that's why it's so much easier on your sofa, because if you get it wrong on your sofa, like, no one's going to care.
You look like, you just like a tit to yourself. You don't know.
Yeah, like, no one's really going to care on TV, because, like, I think people that watch it aren't going to be like, dumb. But, I mean, I've seen Twitter. Some people do.
Yeah,
but, like, there's so much pressure.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Tom.
I was going to say, it is a bit of a phenomena that teams that are quite far down at some point do suddenly get very aggressive on the buzzer. I remember we did it because if you're neck and neck, you feel like you've got something to defend, especially with the penalty of the -5 points. But if you've got nothing, I mean, what have you got to lose? You can't
We
lose.
were once. There was a point where we were -5 and Edinburgh were 95. That was our biggest gap.
Yeah.
And then we came back and won by like 15 points. That stresses me out so much, feel to say. And it stresses me out more given that in September I'm going to go and start a PhD at the University of Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So, awkward.
Going to Chris.
Yeah. I mean, I've been playing QB League, which is quiz bowl style thing, and the amount of times early in a game I'm waiting for just one more clue.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got the answer, and I'm just thinking, no, I'll just, I know that there's something that will confirm it. I'll just wait till that starts to come up, and before you know it, somebody beats me to the buzzer, and I'm sat there thinking, why didn't I just buzz in earlier? Because 3 times out of 4. I'm right.
Exactly.
I'm really completely off the mark. So yeah, it's tricky. Somebody's got a cuckoo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's me. Sorry.
That's so
My
not.
parents have a cuckoo clock. I hate it.
I didn't know whether that was Paddy. Just
No. It is
Yes,
here.
yeah, sorry about that, guys.
I'm very irritated by the cuckoo clock. Like every time I'm on a Zoom call, people are like, "Is that a cuckoo clock?" And I'm like, "Yes, it's a cuckoo clock."
I think that plays in a submarine right now.
No, I think they got it on holiday somewhere and brought it back. My mum is over there. She's just informed me it was from Germany.
Oh, there you go.
Those quiz bowl questions, are they the ones really like tricky clue and then get progressively easier as they go along?
Yeah, pyramidal.
Yeah.
Yeah, those ones are always they're good fun.
Yeah,
but they are.
That's,
tricky.
I guess it's kind of like Only Connect, isn't it? Where like for 5 points, it's tricky.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
I don't say that for some of them in Only Connect, like they were impossible to get the 5. If that makes sense. That's something I noticed tonight for the first time. Like the bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush one. So
yeah.
I mean, that's the Charlie Parker thing. I listen to quite a lot of jazz, and I know who Charlie Parker is. I had no idea his nickname was the Bird. But let's say you did. If the first one you write, that's Charlie Parker, that's the Bird, and by some amazing reason you knew that it was getting at the Bird, how the hell do you know that it's going to be a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush? How do you get the 5 points from that?
Or a cuckoo in this instance.
That makes it
A cuckoo in the clock is worth 2 in the
To staying silent during the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, no, it's that. I mean, there are some where you simply can't, you can't know, or somewhere it could go one of 2 ways. And there was one in QB League this time where it was like, I think the first number was like 22. So are you going upwards or are you going downwards?
Yeah.
You're taking a gamble on that. You just can't know. But I mean, that's the gameplay, isn't it? Robert Crawley has lobbed a grenade in.
Uh-oh.
Is it time to change the Oxbridge College rule? It does seem unfair to other collegiate universities.
Sorry, is that a comment on electing Prime Minister in the United Kingdom? Or is that a comment on quizzing? Just thought I'd ask.
Comments from the Earl of Grantham.
I think we all know the answer to that one. So I think there's been as many as 13 teams from Oxbridge in the past. I think there's 9 this series. I don't know if that is it's oscillating or whether they're generally trying to kind of have
It's like
fewer.
8 or 9 usually this recently, hasn't it been?
I think
4 from each, 4 or 5 from each, depends.
Yeah.
I mean, we say that other universities are collegiate in the sense that Durham is and York and Lancaster are, but not really in the same sense. So there's no teaching. I don't know. I think this is the case at York and Lancaster, but Durham, there's no teaching done in-house. It's purely a sort of residential community spirit thing. So in that respect, I suppose the Oxford-Cambridge rule does give a better representation of different sort of teaching bodies within the UK, if that makes sense. Unless you want to sort of sort it by size, but then again, that the disadvantage is other smaller non-Oxbridge.
I always hate talking about like quotas because quotas always feel so wrong. Because my first thought is, let's say 2 colleges from each university, for example, because I guess like Durham University can only put through 4 students from Durham University. But I don't know, quotas feels bad because if everybody, it should be about who's the best quiz team.
Yeah.
So
It should be, though. From what I've seen of like university quizzing team competitions where Oxford and Cambridge compete, they usually win almost all the time. I think. I mean, I don't know. Like, I haven't kept up with it, but
in things like Quiz Bowl, they compete as Oxford and Cambridge, though, don't they? They don't compete as. So you have like Oxford A, Oxford B.
Like, apparently, I think there are loads of other good universities that also compete and maybe win every now and again. But from what I've seen, like, I think the college rule actually helps everyone else. As like unfair as it seems,
I get what you mean.
as unfair as it seems on the other universities, it does like almost to sound almost
defeatist,
which we shouldn't, I guess, but it does give us more of a chance to win.
I mean, from what I've seen, if I had to put money on it, I'd say it's about 50-50. Durham could put up maybe a couple teams, maybe 3 if they really stretched it, but I mean, whether all of them even get into the competition, televised stage of the competition, is anybody's guess.
Someone just put in the comments, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it is a good point, because there would be a problem if an Oxbridge college won every single year.
Exactly.
But they don't. Like, I think Manchester are the university that's won it the most times. So it's obviously, like, not a case of, like...
And they're tied with Magdalen and Oxford, aren't they?
No, because Magdalen got disqualified because it turned out that one of their team members had actually graduated before filming.
In the Gale Trimble.
Oh, who'd do that?
They did have a tie, and then someone got like... Well, obviously we're different because of COVID, but like...
Well, it's just me.
Yeah, you'd graduate.
My general view, and I guess, I think we have to remember it's entertainment. University Challenge is an entertainment program. It's not, a straight up quest to find the best 4 students. So that, I guess that's why they kind of do it. But my feeling, having been to a plate glass university, is it true that Durham has an Oxbridge Reject Society?
That's the university.
This entire thing.
That's the name of that's just the university.
So I went to the University of Kent, which has a Durham Reject Society. Anyway,
does it? My dad
went
went
to few unis with those.
But we
Kent's collegiate too. Where'd you go? Kent's collegiate too, isn't it?
Kent's collegiate too, yeah.
Yeah, where'd you go?
I was at Keynes College.
Keynes. Well, my dad was too.
There you go. Best college. Everybody knows that.
That's cute.
But I've lost track. Yeah. So my general view is, if we were talking straight up competition, but actually even the TV, where is the incentive for a lot of universities to really engage seriously with quizzing when there are actually quite a limited number of slots available on University Challenge? Maybe if Oxford and Cambridge were limited to a team each, it would open the door to other institutions to think they could get on more regularly. My university's been on twice in the Paxman era, which is not very much for a university of 20,000 people. So, but then it wouldn't make great TV if it was, who's going to win it this year, Oxford or Cambridge. But in the long term, it might actually change the geography of student quizzing. That's my take on it. And I know it's not, it doesn't necessarily square itself with good entertainment.
It's like ridiculous, like 138 universities.
128,
128, 138, and only 24 get on, and it's usually the same universities. So there's clearly something wrong going on there.
I thought it was like Eurovision, where like 6 countries get in because they donate money or something. Like, it's like why we're always in Eurovision. We're white. Like,
you could have qualifiers, couldn't you, as well?
So, yeah, you could have qualifiers rather than just this.
That would be quite cool, actually.
I've always sorry, I've always said this when I used to work on it, and Claire Parody, who's still on the show, we always thought, she's lovely. Very good friend of mine. But we always said that like it would be great, if there was like an ESPN sort of channel for University Challenge, because there would be the scope for it and the capacity for it, and I think it would be lovely to see teams that are nearly there, being able to compete against other teams. It'd be lovely in an ideal world to have that kind of thing, I
mean, if it was ESPN style, that opens it out into a whole whole realm of different kinds of competitions as well.
That would be
and that would
great.
be exciting.
That would be
Absolutely.
Kind of pay-per-view quizzing, or it could be a little bit like kind of the cricket and the ICC. You've got your top-ranked teams that get into the World Cup, and a few can play, or others can play a competition which wins them places. That's kind of what happens in University Challenge.
I feel like highest scoring losers is trying to do that, isn't it? But I wish there could be more.
It's still really harsh, the high scoring losers.
I wish,
It's not as harsh, you know.
I hate losers. That's horrible. Like the word.
See, the thing is that, you know, sort of ultimately, sort of for all this, is sort of, while an ESPN would be lovely, at the end of the day, the BBC gives University Challenge 37 episodes throughout a series, and then they have to find a method of tournament that can facilitate 37 episodes. And so, you know, that idea of, you know, first round repechage, you know, Swiss pair quarterfinals is, you know, a very neat way and a very clever way of doing it. But they can only cut their cloth accordingly. You know, if BBC kind of, you know, had the University Challenge channel, you know, it'd be tremendous. But when you've only got 37 episodes, you can only have a certain amount of teams, and sadly that means that an awful lot of teams won't make the cut. And you know, and it is unfortunate that it's, you know, it comes down to, you know, one test or whatever. But for television purposes, there really is no other way to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, reality.
Well, could the Oxbridge colleges have a competition to earn, say, 6 places in the competition? We're trying to fix the University Challenge one way or another. But
I guess it feels a bit quotery. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so hard to make it. If you do one thing, it's unfair to not the Oxbridge colleges. If you do another thing, it's unfair to the Oxbridge colleges. Like,
I mean, yeah. I'm reminded of a case of a school that got rid of the positions of head boy and head girl to make it more inclusive, and they ended up with like a school captain team that was made up of 3 boys, because that's who won the election. I mean, if you swing it one way, you risk we might end up with, you know, an entirely Oxford-Cambridge University Challenge series. So presume, I mean, as long as that's not happening, I presume the system's working relatively well.
Wow.
Also, that Oxbridge repechage would be great practice that no one else would get access to.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
All these great quizzing teams get to play against each other and practice.
Exactly.
And practice
they just have a great time
before they get on. That's not fair either. I mean, I remember there was. There was an Only Connect missing vowels in category, which was like universities that have only been on University Challenge once. Like, there's so many of them. There's enough to fill a whole missing vowels.
I love missing vowels. Missing vowels is my favourite part of Only Connect.
What I've just remembered is that my dad went to Keynes College, Kent, as well.
Everyone went to Keynes.
It's a small world.
Where did your dad go?
My dad went to Bradford.
My dad didn't go to university.
Although we did.
Neither.
Nor did mine, but yeah, we had a duck pond at Keynes College, so that was our selling point.
We had a duck pond.
We are Durham has ducks. We're known for like being the
So
ducks
many.
college.
We had a duck as our mascot, didn't we?
We did. Oh yeah.
Jeremy
I'm really
Quaxman.
curious about. His name was Jeremy Quaxman, and he was a duck. Yeah. I'm curious about the Durham the owl mascot tonight, because I don't know where that came from.
We've been
But
searching.
we'll ask them.
That's the other thing, of course. If we amalgamated all the Oxbridge colleges, we'd miss out on a great
The
variety
best
of
part of the
mascots.
Oxbridge colleges is the mascots and the scarves. Like,
And the scarf, great scarf.
I quite like seeing the Oxbridge colleges on it, to be fair.
So Harry brought up an interesting point there earlier about, like, you know, the sort of the potential Oxford repechage, because I suppose the thing is that the you know, Oxford and Cambridge's strength reflects a history of them being very strong at this, and they essentially de facto have a sort of a quiz bowl channel all of their own. They're able to play against each other. They're able to get stronger as a result of the sort of that sort of collegiate nature. Sadly, other parts of the country don't have that kind of tradition where, you know, Manchester University frequently play against Durham or Newcastle or Birmingham or anything like that. The you know, obviously geography is a major factor in that, but there isn't a culture of frequent, constant tournaments. And so therefore, you know, Oxford and Cambridge have an awful lot of inbuilt traditional strength there, sort of in all manner of ways. But, they can play against each other and get better and better and better. And that facility doesn't really exist around the rest of the country, sadly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at your comment. I was just...
No, it was a good comment from,
the Catherine Burkett comment.
Yeah.
No, I think that's right. I mean, I think there are some inbuilt advantages and fundamental kind of inequalities, but I think what we've discovered is there's no easy fix, and nobody is rallying behind my banner, which is really disappointing.
Oh.
But that's the nature of the beast. Look, it's been great. I'm going to have to wrap up because we can't talk all night, as would be lovely. So can I ask what people's individual highlights were of this evening? Could be a question, could be a performance, could be something somebody said, whatever. Paddy, we'll start with you.
Well, assuming I can't choose the fact that I beat Shanine Salmon in the Pop Culture Challenge match that we played earlier on today, just by the skin of my teeth, she played fantastically well. Otherwise, no, I think actually it was the tail end of Mastermind. I think I think when Ranveer won, and sort of the emotion sort of with him and his partner, I thought that was it was a lovely moment, and I think it was a very subtle but profound indication of where Mastermind is going. Is like, this is a genuine tough quiz. It's a real challenge, it's a real interrogation, but there's genuine heart behind it. And that's a lovely thing to see on our television screens of a Monday evening.
Great. Selina, how about you?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And also Steve's banana appeal pun, because I am a sucker for a pun. And that was a very excellent one. But yeah, it's really hard, because we get, an hour and a half of just really lovely people being really, really clever, and it's great. I love it.
Oh.
That really does sum up Quizzy Monday. That's true. Thomas, how about you?
Oh, hard to tell. I had a few good moments this evening. Probably Charlie Hetherington's little last-minute streak, kind of heroically pure sportsmanship, trying to just play the game for its own sake.
Yeah. Tom, what about you?
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to be horribly partisan and say that little run at the end from Charlie and from Griffiths with his marvelous 2 pi watts answer. I loudly cheered when he did that. You could see the sort of relief on everyone's faces that they were back in it. And as Tom said, playing it for the sake of the game. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really good sort of 5 minutes that Durham really acquitted themselves very well. So that was very heartwarming for me as a quiz parent.
Holly, how about you?
I mean, I think watching University Challenge when we've been on it and it's not us on it it's really lovely. And to see Durham, and we watched our friends be clever on television. Like, how cool is that? And Jack's buzz on 2 pi, I, especially as a physicist, so kind of biased, but I really like the questions that don't put emphasis on memory. I also liked when Charlie buzzed in with Holly, because that's my name. I knew it was mistletoe, but that is my name. And you've got to have a little shout out for Muscle Steve as well.
Muscle Steve. Yeah.
Everyone says such lovely, wholesome answers. But I was just really happy Evangelion was an answer. So
that was so good.
I was like, yes, come on, bring that. We love lowbrow coming in.
Yeah.
So
especially after the entire team saying it was something like that, but they weren't.
Yeah.
I like seeing more popular culture questions on University Challenge. I think that's good for people sat on the sofa as well.
Yeah, because it came in quite early with the John Williams soundtrack.
Yeah,
and,
I don't know if that's just my background, having like neither of my parents went to university, but we still watch the show and it's fun. It's nice when we can get a question.
Well, it's treating different types of knowledge equally seriously.
Yes.
Which again, Mastermind did tonight. People were commenting that the Bruce Springsteen questions were really hard. It's like, so they should be. They should be exactly as hard as the Romanovs or Switzerland or whatever, because that's the game.
No knowledge is sort of just because it's not associated with something upper class doesn't mean it's like worthless knowledge.
Indeed.
Exactly.
Indeed. So those are your highlights.
What about yourself, Gareth? What's your favorite?
Yeah.
See, from a quizzing perspective, the one on East of Scotland Football League teams in University Challenge, the last one of those, Hoik, that was I said it out loud, so I'm not kind of making it up. Valerie can attest; she can confirm.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Valerie.
Don't steal the show. Anyway, she won't come on camera, but she'll say things. Anyway, so in the late 70s, early 80s, when I was a kid, I used to have this chap called Eddie Waring doing rugby commentary, and everything was on the BBC back in those days. And you get the scores come through. And Hoik was one of those places that I'd heard of. It just came up, and I just threw it out there. And I was just so chuffed when that came through, because absolutely no real knowledge, to be fair. I just knew it was up in Scotland. And but I liked that because that was my wild guess coming through. But actually, there were so many things. But I really think, I've been on Mastermind 3 series. I've been semi-finalist 3 times. And for me, seeing it seamlessly transition into Clive Myrie, and to see the reaction online be so overwhelmingly positive when I was thinking, oh god, the trolls are going to come out. But it was like, no, this guy absolutely nailed it, absolutely deserved it. The show feels like the same show, but just better. And for me, that show has meant a lot to me. And so just seeing it kind of transition in that Doctor Who style, that was probably my overall highlight. It reminds me a little bit 2005 when Doctor Who came back, and watching that first episode, Rose, and it's like, don't screw it up, don't screw it up, don't screw it up. It's that sort of thing, and it's like, oh, thank God. And also, if I'm going to keep my lowbrow ones up, when I went to see Paddington in the cinema, don't trample over my childhood.
Oh, and it wasn't.
What were your specialist subjects on Mastermind, or what's your sort of best one?
First time I did the Great Fire of London, and then the history of Northampton Town Football Club. Then I did Augustus Pugin, the architect.
Oh, lovely.
Wow.
And Herbert Chapman, the 1920s, 30s football manager. Then I did St. Paul's Cathedral and Erasmus Darwin.
Oh, I love Erasmus Darwin.
Yeah.
Very classic.
This is good. Like, I feel like people talk about astrology. You can learn more about someone from what they'd choose for their Mastermind specialist subject.
Yeah.
So true.
Like I'm a Gemini. My specialist subject would be like.
That's a very good point.
That's going to come up on like all dating platforms now. Is the thing.
Yeah. Tell me your star sign. Tell me your specialist subject.
That's such a good first date question.
Yeah, so rather than age, sex, location, it's age, sex, location, and Mastermind.
Specialist subject. We've got I haven't heard ASL in years. Well, that makes me feel old. That makes me feel very old.
Look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you all on. Hopefully, we can get you on at some point in the future again, just to chat quiz. It's been really
thank you so much for having us.
Well,
yes,
no,
it's been lovely.
Delightful.
Thank you, Gareth.
Yeah, so thanks to Selina, Thomas, Tom, Holly, Harry, and part of Paddy.
The voice of Paddy.
The voice of Paddy, yeah. Thanks to all of you for coming along. The show's nothing without people who can just chat interestingly about quiz. Thanks to everybody who's been watching. Been a good number of people. So many comments in the chat. Haven't been able to keep up with them. This has to be the new hashtag that's going to sweep.
Where's Valerie?
Where's Valerie? But yeah, thanks to everybody. Unless I say, if you've got this far into the show and you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Press the subscribe button. But yeah, thanks. Look out for Quiz Week, which will be coming out on Friday. We'll have the latest nominations for Quizzer and Quiz Team of the Week. You can play Lunchtime Quiz Time on Twitter every day from 12 to 2. We release question at 12 and the answer at 2. And we don't forget to vote in the what is the question vote. And we've got 48, 49 questions, some of which are absolutely fantastic, all on the theme of London. So look out for that. But until next week, we will be back for Quizzy Monday next week. And I should be better prepared and tell you who the guests are, but I'm not that well prepared. So look out for that. Over the course of the week, I'll tell you who's on. But for now, thanks to everybody for joining us, for appearing on the show, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.